All right, what's going on, you guys? We are here live for the Boxing Live Q&A, and this is something I've been doing every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. This will be the last one for a while, but I'm still going to keep the boxing home workouts going. Those will be going every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. These I like to do in blocks, like a few weeks at a time, answer all the questions that are out there, and then take a little break and then come back. So good morning, you guys. I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world or whatever time it is, having a great day and getting some good rest. And I'm here to answer some of your questions. First off, I've got thoughts on lifting, and definitely got some very clear answers for you on that. So I'll address that in this video. I'll address that. It's very important. I'll address that in this video. And I talked about it in my last live Q&A. Weightlifting is a very important part of boxing. I think, personally, in my opinion, of athletic training. What's going on, you guys? Got Jalon, Reed, Craig MC from Newfoundland, Burpa Mitra, Pavirathon, Fahad Ahmed, good day. Justin Drumheller. Yo, it's not the paint. It's a blue light. It's a blue light that's making the paint blue. That's just white back there, but I got a blue spotlight. Kevin, man, I appreciate it. What I've got is on my website, precisionstriking.com. Next week, I'm gonna have a Q&A page, and so that's gonna become a resource that you can go back to. These I do in blocks, so I've done 3 weeks in a row. Take a little break from it, and then I'm gonna come back and do another section. Let's say maybe in a few months, do some more of these. Chris, you went to the gym and got an infection. Yeah. I don't, you got to assess how that infection is doing on your hand, and you got to go to a doctor, a skin doctor, and get that checked out. When I was a teenager, I skidded off my bike and I scraped my hand, and then I started scratching it, whatever. And then I ended up getting an infection that lasted me like 6 months until I finally went to the doctor about it, and they gave me a topical cream, and it was gone in 2 weeks. But the hardest part sometimes is just sucking it up, going to the doctor. You might not need an antibiotic. You might just need a topical cream for that. Warrior Monk, how you doing? How you doing? Why don't you use the right hook? A lot of people use the right hook. A lot of people use the right hook. It's used more than you think by certain fighters. One fighter that uses it a lot is, let me see if you can guess. Okay, not Tyson. Can you think of a current fighter that uses the right hook a lot? I just want to see if you guys know. Maybe you know some that I don't know. But there's one fighter I got in mind that uses the right hook a lot. And what's it? Jermaine Charlo, Lomachenko, Joshua. Yeah, very much. Lomachenko in the southpaw, yeah. Well, the fighter I'm thinking of is, and Charlo, yeah. The fighter I'm thinking of is Danny Garcia. You watch Danny Garcia, he's working, Spence is a southpaw. I'm talking about an orthodox. You see Danny Garcia working a right hook a lot. And so the right hook is a great punch if you're good at it, if you can work it. The problem with a right hook is that, again, it's a long distance and coming all the way. So if I'm here and I throw a straight right or an overhand right, I can achieve the same thing as if I'm throwing a right hook. But the advantage to the right hook is that a lot of people don't expect it, and it comes from outside of your field of vision. So if you know you a lot of shots. Another fighter, right hook to the body, definitely. Right hook to the body for sure. One fighter that actually used to use it in a long range way is Roy Jones. Roy Jones Jr. used to loop it wide, like over top, like so. So you see Roy Jones used to use that right hook quite a bit. So that's another one. But the right hook is definitely a useful punch. You just got to see if it suits you, and you got to work on it. You got to work on it so that it's part of your arsenal. All right, so somebody asked, I'm going to address the lifting question in a bit, but take some of the easier questions for now. And also remember to like the video and do all that kind of stuff, like and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff. Somebody said, okay, they have a gym where they do hard sparring and they get headaches. Now, the thing is, hard sparring can be your worst enemy and your best friend at the same time. First of all, the reason why you get headaches mostly is because of the neck tension. You're getting hit all over, your neck gets really tight, and then that creates the headache. Most of the time, I mean, there could be other reasons, but most of the time it's the neck tension from getting hit. So once your neck gets loose, then the headache will go away. You don't want hard sparring all the time. And because what happens is hard sparring, you're getting hit too much. Once you get to the level, you can have hard sparring because you can control the pace. You can move around. You can tie the person up. You can shut them down on defense. You can slow the pace once you get to the level. So I don't think you need to change gyms, but you might want to control how much you spar. So if you know that they spar like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, maybe you want to like just show up for the Wednesday, or maybe you want to just go in for so many rounds or try to find a sparring partner you like. So especially when you're a beginner, there's no shame in protecting yourself and, you know, really controlling who you spar against and how the sparring is. And if it's not supervised sparring, there's a lot of times where the sparring isn't supervised, and that I don't like because, you know, in traditional gyms, there's always a coach or two on the edge of the ropes watching the sparring. But a lot of sparring these days is they break you off into groups and they say, go at it. I hate that. But you might want to not necessarily switch gyms entirely, but you might want to try to find a friend or someone else you can spar with control to bring up your level. And once your level gets up, then you're going to be able to handle the more intense stuff. So answer number one is control the amount of interaction. So try to, if it's hard sparring, don't go 3 days a week. Try to limit it. And then number two, try to find another way to up your level so that when you go back to the hard sparring, you're more competent. So if you can go at an easier gym, or if you have a friend, some other kind of source, so that when you go back, that you're more on the level. All right. What's going on, you guys? What's going on? All right, I appreciate it, Ali. You got to go. Do I think eating healthy is important for boxing? I mean, healthy, of course, we all know healthy is subjective, but I think that anything that you intake into your body, it is so important. And if you watch an interview with Bernard Hopkins, there's an interview with Bernard Hopkins online where he says that soda is crack. And in a way it is, because when you have all that sugar, they've done brain scans. It stimulates the same part of your brain as a heroin user when they shoot up heroin. It's the dopamine reward center. So it's not just sugar, but I think that, you know, if you're eating whole foods, very minimal processed stuff, I think that if you control, limit your sugar intake, and you're eating enough calories and enough fiber and also enough protein, that it's going to be a huge difference in your average energy, so that you won't hit those lows. It may not give you the high, but you will eliminate the low, and so you'll be more steady. And I think that's very important. Dylan Nolan, can I give you advice on fight nerves? Yeah, well, I get that. And one thing for me is I always had the nerves, always. Not just the nerves, but the mental thoughts, you know, because for some people, they don't like getting hit. But actually, for a lot of people, it's a fear of losing. Losing is worse than getting hit. And if you've been boxing for a while, it's the losing and fear of losing badly that hurts. The only two things that worked for me is in training, during the weeks leading up to the training, I wanted to punish myself. I wanted to torture myself so that whatever my opponent was going to put me through, it couldn't be worse than what I put myself through. So I know you're probably already doing that if you are an advanced fighter, but see if there's a way that you can get your mind to switch a little bit more towards punishing yourself in training. Like, go the extra mile so that your opponent can't put you through anything worse than what you put yourself through. On fight day, is what I would do, what always I did is I'm not going to think about what my opponent is going to do to me. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do to my opponent, but not in a vindictive way, in a strategic way. You start to constantly rehearse and visualize what you're doing, your combos, your go-tos. See yourself slipping and throwing the jab and then moving out. See yourself really applying your game plan. And I'd say you pick 4 or 5 of your favorite combos and see yourself moving around the ring, faking and then going in and landing them. And the minute you start to feel those nerves, start to visualize and think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And start to think through it and see it. Keep your mind and your consciousness on what you're going to do to your opponent, what you're going to do, not so much what your opponent is going to do to you. All right, you guys. All right. So let's talk about lifting for boxing. And I mean, it is a tough subject to cover. It's not an easy subject to cover. But in general, the way I had to explain it to you is that, it's different training for boxing because only so much strength is going to matter. So, for example, it's not the same between somebody, let's say, who deadlifts 300 pounds, and then that person does a training plan and they get up to 350 pounds on the deadlift. That 50 pounds, which matters in weight training, won't matter in boxing because of what's called rate of force development, rate of force or rate of force application, which means that when you throw a punch in boxing, when you execute an explosive technique, there is only so much time that muscle fibers can be recruited to do the action. In weight training and strength training, once you get to a certain strength, it's more and more muscle fibers recruited over time that execute that action. So whether somebody can bench press 200 pounds or 400 pounds isn't going to matter in terms of a punching power output. But where we get confused is that when somebody can bench press 400 pounds, they're usually bigger and heavier. And that makes a big difference. So you have to always think about strength in terms of pound for pound in boxing, not absolute strength. Because of course, the person who's going to bench press 400 and weighs 200 is probably he's going to hit harder than the person who weighs 180 and bench presses 225, whatever. These are just numbers. So what's the general approach? The general approach for strength training is twofold. I have a video on it. In general, you're going to work base strength, bench press, rows. Your rep range can be anywhere from, say, the 4 to 10 range. It can be anywhere. You're going to work a base strength phase. And you can work that for 2 to 3 months. Once you get that up to a certain level and you're not going to make much more progress than that, it's not going to have an impact on your boxing technique. You will sort of be near your max potential. After that, you can start working on explosive movements, jump squats, bouncing push-ups, explosive rotations, all these kind of things that you really could be working on already anyway. But the thing overall to summarize lifting for boxing is that if you are a beginner, it's going to help up until a point. And then any marginal gains after that aren't going to make much difference in your boxing. So get your strength up to a good level and then maintain it maybe 1 or 2 workouts a week and focus on explosive after that. All right. So check out my strength training for boxing video on YouTube. There's a 45-minute video that's going to tell you a lot more than I can tell you right now. All right. Let's see what other questions you guys got for today. I know there's a lot of it is the talk about what's going on. What do you guys think about Linares and Lomachenko? What are you guys' thoughts on that? I mean, I already have my opinion, but I want to know if you guys were to do a prediction, what you would say about that. Loma, how? Loma by how? Loma by decision, Loma by KO, Linares. What do you guys think? Before we get to more Q&A, I want to hear what the general consensus is. Linares win by a split. Wow, that'll be interesting. Split. Wow, Lomachenko's a killer. Right? Loma, TKO or points. Loma by KO, Loma by murder, Loma by unanimous. I think I'm going with that, Pedro. I think I'm going by Loma with unanimous. Loma 2 or a doctor stoppage. Yeah. That's right. That's possible. Gets TKO because he fades late. Yeah. The thing about Linares is he's a sharpshooter. He's a sharpshooter. He's a counterpuncher, and he's patient. But those type of fighters don't really do well against Lomachenko because he's so busy. You need to be Lomachenko. Like, you need to be like a Salido almost, but just without the low blows. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to beat Lomachenko if you're a patient shooter. I think it's the pressure fighter. It's the pressure fighter that's going to beat Lomachenko if anyone has a chance at that. Have I heard about the Ryan Garcia situation? No, I don't know what's going on with him. I know he's coming up and doing really well, but I don't know if anything recent has happened. I don't know what's new there. Somebody asked, what are my thoughts on classical pugilism? The thing about a lot of old style fighting is it's really good for practical purposes. Like, in other words, if you were to fight somebody in the late 1800s, they're preparing for a real fight. It's a little bit closer to what I think the real thing would be. I think that now when you look back at it, you just think, oh, because they didn't have the modern training and the modern coaches, a lot of people underestimate how tough those guys were. And so the thing is, it's hard to really say how it would do today, but I think that there's a lot of practical stuff for example, like if you watch Jack Johnson, you see a lot of the grappling and the tying up. It was almost like half wrestling, that if you were to fight somebody like that, they could just wear you down over the rounds. So it's there's definitely a lot of merit in it. It's just that when you get the modern game changes things. So it makes it look like the old stuff isn't as relevant. I think the old stuff would be more relevant for a street situation. What do I think on Gervonta Davis counterpunching technique? Yeah, Gervonta Davis is he's a machine. He's a killer. He looks good. It's gonna take a really slick outside fighter to beat him. It's gonna take somebody like a Crawford to beat him. It's gonna take somebody like slick, very sharp, mobile outside fighter to beat him, because he's definitely a tank. He really is the tank. Do I think Canelo used the PEDs? Yeah, I think he did. I think he did. The question is, how many more boxers out there that haven't got caught yet are using it? That's really the question. So in professional sports, that's the thing that's going on. Neck workouts. I think somebody had asked before about neck workouts. The neck workouts, it's important. It's very important. Basically, what I like to do is just put a towel up against the wall and put my head against the wall and lean and move back and forth and do crunches like so. I think neck workouts are very important. Or if you can get the Mayweather, we always see him in the video, but every boxer uses the head harness and work the reverses. Neck is very important. I mean, when your neck is supported and your head is supported on your neck, it doesn't rock you, and you're able to take the shots a lot better. All right, let's see what kind of other questions you guys got. Yeah, my live workouts are on my website in a playlist. They're in a playlist on my they're on my website. You got to go to my website and go to the live stream page. Structure an hour-long lunch, hour box class for corporate was the best. Ignore techniques in boxing style, no pads or gloves. Okay. Somebody, Craig MC, had asked, how do I structure a class if I'm going to teach a fitness group? And I'll address this question because some of you here who love boxing one day might teach a class. You might teach a class and you're limited to what you can do. And the way I like to do a fitness class is I do all you got to do is look at my live stream workouts on Saturday and you'll see a similar idea. Because you have no equipment and you don't know if the people on the other side of the camera have no equipment. And then work some head movement. And then at the end, save at the end for some conditioning, burpees, push-ups, jump squats, all that kind of stuff. But basically, they're going to be punching the air for 45 minutes. And then put the conditioning and the abs. Corporate people love abs. So make sure you do lots of abs. Corporate people love it. All right, let's see what else you guys got. All right, so another question is sidestepping for cardio, running bothers my knees. All right, okay, King Jarrett. Sidestepping. The thing about any kind of cardio, okay, you got to remember cardio and boxing. The first thing is that boxing is technique. Boxing is technique. When your body starts working that technique hard and fast, your cardiovascular system starts to work. So, if there's two things that there's going on, the efficiency of the technique and the capacity of your cardiovascular system. So you can get a lot of cardio for boxing if you train cardio. And of course, you will get more efficiency training boxing. Can you do sidestepping is the question. You can do anything as long as it's going to get your heart rate up high enough. But that's the hard part, is because running is such a raw, natural motion and a broad motion that it gets your heart rate up high enough. So what you want to do is, whether you're doing the elliptical, I don't know if you guys remember Frank Shamrock. Frank Shamrock, back in the day, MMA, UFC fighter. He used to do his cardio on the elliptical. He would train like a real fighter, but he didn't run or anything. He did cardio on the elliptical. So if you guys want to get your cardio up, swimming, cycling, skipping, you can do sidestepping. You can do the elliptical. You can do rowing on a ride. You need to get your heart rate up high enough into that threshold so that you're getting the cardiovascular benefit from it. So that, I think that it's good, but you got to make sure that you're getting the heart rate up high enough no matter what you choose. And then you just got to work your boxing as much as you can work it, as many rounds as you can. All right. Somebody asked about running in the morning. Now, me personally, it depends on your schedule. I always had a hard time running in the morning, but I could run at night. So for example, I would train from like 4 till 6 in the day, and then I could run at like 8:30 that night. And so it all depends on what's going on. But the first thing is, if you want to run in the morning, it's probably something else you're doing that is getting in the way of your sleep. So particularly if you have any kind of technology in your face, any type of phone, laptop, iPad, television, anything in your face after 8 o'clock is going to stimulate your eyes and your mind to stay awake, So one thing I did is a Twilight app on my phone. That's one thing I did. And then I also put the Flux app on my laptop. So it blocks out blue light, and eliminating that blue light is going to help you fall asleep. And so that helps. And then you got to start getting into a nighttime routine of falling asleep a little bit earlier. And one thing that's helped me a lot is melatonin. Melatonin and valerian root, both of those have helped me. Here, I'm going to write it. Melatonin and valerian root. Those two have helped me a lot for getting to sleep. Once you get to sleep sooner, you wake up sooner. These days, I'm waking up 6 a.m., 6:30, the earliest I've ever woken up in my life. And I attribute it to blocking out that blue light. No technology after 8 o'clock, or at least put the apps on your devices so that you're blocking out that light. And then and slowly over the weeks, that's going to help you get to sleep, and that'll help you get up for your runs. GABA, yeah, GABA is a good one too. And that's what they're saying about the valerian root, is that the valerian root, they're not sure, but by mechanism, it might release GABA in your brain. And so that's going to help you sleep as well. So that's, how old am I? I am 42. I'm going to be 43. Wait, am I 40? Yeah, I'm 42. I'm going to be 43 in July. 43 in July. All right, let's see what else you guys got going on. T-Dogs asking, is 30 years old too late to start boxing? This is the age thing is something that I've done a few videos about, because I think that's something that means a lot to me in terms of what type of experience he has getting into boxing. And what I say about boxing is a process that changes you, that the process more so than the result. The result is the proof that you the process. You know what I mean? That the result is just evidence that you went through the work. And so the question first, before is any age too late, is what are you seeking? What are you after? And I think that with boxing, it gives everybody out there a sense of empowerment, and also a sense of calm, that you have put yourself to the test. You have said, I'm going to train, I'm going to focus, I'm going to dedicate myself, I'm going to spar, I'm going to face discomfort, I'm going to face my fear, and I'm going to do it over and over and over and over again. And it's not, it's not a magic bullet, but it is one way that you start to change yourself on the inside. And you also, another thing that's important is it changes how you see other people. Because when you see other people, you who may have been like you before boxing, or you see someone who's a martial artist or a fighter, you understand who they are. You understand where they're coming from. That MMA, BJJ, martial arts, and all tools that we use to get to a different state of mind. That's what we're so. Whether you're 30 or 40 or 50, if you take up boxing, you're going to experience that change. It doesn't matter if you become Golden Gloves champ or a pro or not. The change is going to happen to you, and you will be happy for that change. That boxing is a transformative process. It will transform you from the inside out, and you can't. There's almost nothing there. Well, other sports or education, but there isn't really much that's going to give you that same experience. Maybe if you challenge yourself to an ultra marathon or something where you challenge yourself, these give you that experience of change. And so no matter what your age, you're going to get that benefit. So you got lots of questions, you guys. Let me see which ones jump out at me. When is the 30 days rope jumping video coming out? My part 3. You know what? I got a couple more videos to do, and I'm going to revisit that this summer. I'm sorry I slacked on that. I moved, and I don't have that same location anymore. So I'll be doing it out of my garage, and I've just been focusing on different kinds of videos because I got kind of out of the groove for that one when I moved. But I probably have that one down by early summer. So we're looking at maybe a month and a half. I'm going to get back into that. It's definitely on my mind. All right. Okay. Somebody asked, how does a tall fighter with short reach fight? And, or even in general, a taller fighter who wants to get on the inside. Are there any examples out there? That we know of fighters, tall fighters with a short reach? Like, I'm trying to think of a practical example of a tall fighter with a short reach. But again, I think it's going to come down to other attributes. Are you quick on your feet? Do you have good head movement? Do you have good defense? Are you aggressive? Are you cagey? Right? So, but the ultimate technical truth of the matter is that you have to get to your distance where you are at your best. And that usually is going to be the length of your arm here, the length of your arm, and a quick step, right? So I don't want to go all the way there. That's too far. I want here, right? And then so here. If I go to this wall, there's my distance. I touch it, right? Or with the fist. So regardless of whether you're short or tall, your style and your attributes matter, but you have to start to discover your units, and you got to get to that point when you're launching your attacks. That's one thing about you, each individual uniquely, you got to understand is, okay, where am I at right? And you don't just go there and stand there. You move laterally. So I've got a great video on lateral motion. You guys, you can go watch that. Lateral motion, moving in rhythm and getting to the spot you need to be and faking and going, or getting to the spot and then going with your attack. So with tall fighter with short reach, the first thing is you got to find your ideal distance. Where are you best? Where are you best from? Dempsey has short arms. Okay, thanks, Travis. I appreciate that. So, you know, you look at Dempsey, pure pressure fighter, like aggressive pressure fighter. So again, but not everybody can fight like Dempsey. Not everybody has that type of toughness and mentality. It's for ring people who are short-sighted and need to wear glasses. You know, this is one thing some of these areas I don't have much experience. And so I have to say I don't have much experience with that. I'm not sure. And I know an optometrist doesn't know anything about boxing, so maybe they can't help you. But hopefully there's somebody at your gym, or even you have an optometrist who maybe has worked with some boxers who knows a little bit of something. So I'm not really sure what the best way is to go about that. So somebody asked, can you learn boxing online? And, you know, this is, a lot of people think that I'm teaching boxing online, but really I'm not. And this is one of the things that I've struggled with trying to explain, is that I assume that you are doing boxing somewhere the way you want to do it. Now, for some people, that means just hanging up a bag in their garage and punching away at it. And so, okay, so you can use to help you make your punches as best as they can be with the tools that you have. Some of you are out there going for a charity fight, and some of you are out there experienced amateur boxers, been around 10, 20 fights. So I think that you can do with online training is you can expand your knowledge, or you can get an idea that takes you up a notch. So the purpose of the online is to help you take control of the process. Because the reason why I teach this stuff online is because when I had my experience with boxing, my coaches only showed me this, or they only showed me that, or they didn't tell me how to train, or they didn't tell me I need to be training this intense. So there's always questions. Now, I didn't need someone online to show me how to box. I knew how to box, but I needed my questions answered. Okay, how should I train? What happens when I face this fighter? Okay, I'm stuck at the same level for 6 months. I can't get better. I can't beat that fighter in my gym. How do I beat them? Should I be training 6 days a week? Should I be training 7 days a week? Should I train twice a day? You know, should I be doing intervals or just distance running? There's so many questions, but learning how to box wasn't one of those questions. So online, you can help fill in the gaps. Everybody's going to have different gaps, and it's not necessarily going to fill in the gaps for everyone. So, you know, if Pacquiao comes on, I probably don't have the answer for Pacquiao. It's going to take like a Freddie Roach to show Pacquiao what he needs. So it's for different levels. But for the average boxer out there who needs questions answered, that's the whole purpose of this channel. The other thing is that you can't learn reactive defense. So it's just like if I was to go play baseball, I can throw, or basketball. Basketball is a better example. I can dribble, I can shoot, I can pass, but I'm not going to be able to learn to deal with a defender, nor am I going to learn defense unless I'm actually there doing it. So I think with online training, you can improve and you can get questions answered and you can elevate your game. But ultimately, you need a coach and you need to learn how to train formally. That's just what I support. You know. But hopefully you guys, I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are getting something out of these videos. Greg asked, can I fight at 47? Yes, you can. Absolutely. Absolutely, you can. You know, ideally you fight another person who is also in their 40s or 50s, or at least a beginner, depends on your fitness. And as long as you don't have any neck injuries or any heart conditions, then you would be good to fight. Just give yourself about 9 to 12 months to train. That's my opinion. And I think you could have a fight and you'll really love it. You love the experience. Yeah, Brian says that the issue is For a lot of people have this because a lot of gyms do this. They get you sparring after all the training and conditioning. And I hate that. I hate that. What I like is you spar fresh and then you train hard after. You add the top up. So I don't know what you can do about that. When you have one of those gyms that does that, I hate that. To me, I don't think it's the best way to go because you spar while fatigued, and that's how you get hit, and that's how you get injured. So I don't know, a different gym, or just maybe only spar a couple times a week with that. Try to get out of the sparring. I don't approve of it. I don't really know what the answer is though, because sometimes you go to a gym and you're stuck with their program. Oh, yeah. In the UK, amateur boxers can't get carded over 40. Yeah. Oh, that sucks. In Canada, you can. And in the States, I think you can. So, but in the UK, I know. I don't know. I guess that's an old rule that they haven't lifted yet. So that really sucks. That really sucks. Miska Coco asks a good question. Is it okay to take some weeks easy in training? Now, listen, the whole purpose of training is so your body adapts. Your body has to adapt. And, the thing is that we always want to see the result, but you don't realize that often the result doesn't happen until a week later, months later, or a few days later, because your body's learning. Boxing is a skill, more so than a raw output. So you need to look up here. I'm going to write it. I'm going to type it. Microcycling and macrocycling. All right. So if you look at triathletes who are very meticulous about their training, how many miles they do on each thing, whether it's swimming, running, biking, the miles, the intensity, how long it took them, the speed, the high level ones are very meticulous. A triathlete or a distance athlete will plan their training by the year. The whole year is planned out. They know, how, and every month, yearly hours, how many hours they put in a year. It's all planned. So part of that planning is you ramp up, you go back down. You ramp up and you go back down, because the lull phase is what allows you to recover, not just physically, but mentally recover, get the energy back, get yourself flowing. So my recommendation is within a week of training, not every day should be a hard day. You could go hard, harder, light, hard, light, something like that, or hard, light, hard, harder, light. And then that would be a hard week. And for every 2 to 3 weeks, you want to have a light week. Now, light week can mean that you can still do the same amount of rounds, but you just take off the intensity, and then move a little bit more between your combos. In a microcycle, you will have easy and hard days. And in a macro cycle, or it depends on, and then there's mesocycle, you're going to go for 2 to, and then 1 week easy. And then 2 to 3 hard weeks and 1 week easy. So you should purposefully build easy weeks into. You're gonna burn out mentally, and you're gonna get static in your results. All right, Deganta asks a good question that 4 weeks skill, 4 weeks in a 12-week program, we skill for. Before I get to Deganta's question, I want to answer Chris Johnson's question. You asked about strength, speed, and skill. The skill should always be happening. Always. Always be working on your skill. Skill is number one. And the speed phases can alternate, but you want to have a skill always going on. You never really want to take a break from the skill part unless you just really need a break. You can take a break from the intensity, but always be working on a little something on your skill. Try not to let that slip for too long. Now, here's a common question that and I've actually had a hard time answering it, is when you're defending, is it pre-planned like you know what it is, or are you reacting? And the answer is it's both. It's both. And it comes down to how fast of a processor you have related to boxing and how fast the stuff is coming at you. The best analogy I can give you is go play the game of Tetris. Go play that game. The pieces will come down and you'll be thinking about that piece and you'll put it in a spot and you can see the other pieces coming. While that one's coming down, you'll see the other pieces and you'll know where they're all going to fit and it'll be so easy. As the levels go on, you can't think about these. It's getting faster, but you can still put this piece nicely where you want it. Then the level gets so fast that not only you can't think about the pieces on the side, but you can barely think about the piece that's coming down. It's coming down. Now, the thing is, experienced Tetris players, they can see it all because their brain is going so fast because they're familiar. They're familiar with it. So the faster you recognize the visual cues, the better your IQ, the better you understand sequencing, block, counter, head movement, punch, bam, block, block, slip, block, slip. The better you understand all the sequences and the quicker you can assess, the more in control you will be. The faster the opponent or the slower your reaction, the more you have to react and deal with it on the fly. So that's why having partner drills, having easy sparring is so important for your processor to get your IQ up. So it's both, but it depends on you and it depends on the speed of your opponent. All right. Somebody asked, is the spar bar a good tool? It's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like the reflex bag. It's a good tool. It's a good tool. It's not a bad tool because anything that's going to get you motivated to do more rounds, to do more work in a new fun way is a good tool, I think. Like if you enjoy it, it's a good tool. And the thing about the spar bar is that you can control the intensity. You can hit it quick or you can hit it slow. You can work on blocks, block, punch it, block. It's not a bad, it's pretty good tool. But I wouldn't say that you have to have it. You don't have to have it to be good. And the other thing is it's good price for a gym if the gym is going to buy one, but it's not a good price for individuals if you're going to buy one for your garage or whatever. So the pricing is a little bit, I'm not saying it's not a fair price because I don't know what the cost of the product is. It might be really expensive to manufacture. It's just that it's a very high price item. So I'd say it's a good tool, but the price range is more for a gym facility to buy. All right, let's see what else you guys got. We got about 15 more minutes on this, and I appreciate you guys being here. These are the more fun, relaxing chats. The workouts on Saturday. I got to jump in the workout with you. Caitlin, you want to shout out Caitlin Patterson? There's a shout out. Shout out to you, Caitlin. So Saturday, we got the live stream. This is the last Q&A I'm going to do for a while, but they're all on my website, precisionstriking.com, and I'm going to have a Q&A page there. I'm going to have a Q&A page there that you guys can go and ask and answer and get questions answered as well. It'd be more like a resource. But all right. More muscle mean more power. How can you develop rhythm in boxing? More muscle does not always mean more power. And because of course it can, but like it is with boxing, it's more neurological. It's more of a circuit, like a circuit going through a socket. You want voltage, and voltage comes from clear messaging, clean messaging, because most power comes from intent. If you have time and intent, and you have the ability to throw with speed, bam, you can really crack with speed. So muscle helps only if the signal is clear and the messaging is clear. And that comes from good technique, tons and tons of practice, and efficiently sending that signal through so that you can get that power, so that you can send the message of the exact movement you want. A best example is golf. In golf, of course, weight matters to a certain extent, but most of it is that clear hit and that signal that's going to go through. It's a lot similar to golf. The thing where conditioning matters for boxing is the endurance. In golf, you have the one hit, and in boxing, you got to keep it up. So endurance is important, not for power, but so you don't lose power, so that your power doesn't start to go down. Because once you cross the threshold, then it's over. You're going right down. Yeah, Roy Jones technique video. Yeah, I could probably make one of those. He's hard to imitate, though. He's hard to imitate. So somebody asked about flinching and closing your eyes during sparring, and this is a tough one. First of all, if you can get a partner to just lightly hit you, I've got a video on that, improving your vision and focus, your defense for boxing. If you can just go here, keep the gloves up, here, 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 and let someone just lightly hit you, and you focus here or here. Don't focus on the gloves. Don't focus on the hands, because it's going to make you flinchy, right? For example, you look at me, and here, don't look at the hand. Look at me. See, you guys, if you're looking at me, you can, that's not going to bother you. But if you start to look at my hand, that's going to make you a little more flinchy. So part of it is make sure to look at the opponent. Don't look at the hands. And secondly, get someone to hit you lightly, work you over while you focus on them. And that's going to start to get you more comfortable. That's something that you got to train out. You got to train it out of yourself. It took me for the first year, I still, not all the time, but I still had that flinchiness. It took about a year to really get rid of it. All right, Bruce Wayne asks, how do you get to a taller fighter? Okay, now the trick to closing the distance is that you got to be, well, it depends on what you're doing. If you can beat them straight in, that's fine. You got to learn to move your head and your feet at the same time. That's it, ultimately it right there. If you can move your head and your feet at the same time, then you can get closer without having to punch. Because when you punch, that's one way to get in. You just go in punching, but that's usually when you leave yourself open. Then they hit you as you start throwing. So for example, here, I go here, I move my head and my feet, right? I go here, see that? If I want to move my head to the right, okay? I want to move my head to the left, okay? Now, that is obviously way oversimplified. I have a whole head movement video on my website on how to move your head and get inside. That's oversimplified. But you have to start thinking about moving your head and feet at the same time and then punching while moving after that. So I've got a video, punching and footwork, where you learn how to move your head, where you learn how to punch and move your feet at the same time. The head movement video is on my website. It's something that I sell. But if you want to work on, then you got to learn to move your head and your feet at the same time and then punch, and then move your head and feet at the same time and then punch. You got to learn to go. And if you really want to do it the raw way, just watch Mike Tyson fights and slow-mo it. Get to the part where you see him do something and pause it and slow-mo and pause it and go back and watch it 100 times over and over. One good fight, you'll see a lot of good tricks, is Tyson versus Golovkin. Not Golovkin, Galata. Tyson versus Galata. In that, even though it's only 2 rounds, Tyson does a lot of his little tricks, and you can learn a lot just from watching that fight. So that'll help you with getting inside. How do you get good footwork to move head and feet at the same time? It's drills, but it starts with the pendulum step. It starts with this here. It starts here with this. this. It starts there. And then it's shuffling, right? Shuffling. Here. It's shuffling. It's, you know, it takes practice and it takes drills to get that. But the pendulum step and the shuffling, those are two big ones. But at the end of the day, it's fundamental boxing. Like I said, if you sign up for the newsletter on my website, there's that punching and footwork video, explains it all to you, how to move your hands and your feet at the same time. Oh, you guys getting a lag in the view? Yeah, maybe it's the connection. Who knows? Let's do a few more questions. We got about 10 minutes left. Any advice for someone aspiring to be a coach? Yeah, I have some very clear advice on that. That I always see myself as more of a teacher than a coach, even though I'm coaching. Coaching is as much about personality management and human relations as it is about teaching. So I don't know if you guys ever had this where you have a teacher in class and they're teaching all kinds of stuff and you're at the back of the class, the middle class, and you love what they're teaching. But then you go up to ask them a question in person and they almost can't stand you, or they almost are like, get out of here. In other words, you have a teacher who's very interesting and friendly in the class format, but one-on-one, they're not comfortable to be around. And then you get coaches who maybe they don't teach you a lot, but because they care about you and they want the best for you. And so sometimes I would say that coaching is as much about human relations and personality management than it is about technical boxing. So I know that you can't have one without the other, but if you have a coach who knows good boxing, but who cares about you, and coaches, you need to adapt to personalities because you're going to get different types of fighters. You get the loudmouth type of fighter. You get the quiet, burning type of fighter, someone who's really quiet, got a lot of anger inside them. You get the jokey, humorous one who never takes anything serious. You get the type of person who's always negative, always talking negative. They're not necessarily performing negative, but they're talking negative. So if you're going to be a coach, you have to be ready to work with all different types of personalities, and you have to give them your best, even though, because in daily life, you may not be friends with a person who is a certain way, but you might end up coaching a person like that. And you have to do your best to give them everything that you've got, despite how their personality is. You have to be able to adapt to their personality. So that's my best advice for coaching. All right, we got a few more minutes. Let me answer a few more questions. I appreciate you guys being here for the live stream. You're the true crew, the ones dedicated to this channel. So let's see what else we got. Long combos versus short ones and twos. I mean, you're never going to be able to beat the quick combos, but it also depends on what kind of defensive fighter you have. You know, ideally, I have a concept that I call stacking. And stacking is where you start out with something quick, like a jab, you know, or a 1-2 or a 2-3. And you got to see if you can touch this person with that. And sometimes you mix it up, like one upstairs, two downstairs, and you catch. There are some people that just move and run and have such great defense. You're never going to get them on the 1 and 2 or the 2-3. You're never going to get them because they're just too defensive and too cagey. So long combos versus short depends on who's in front of you and whether the openings are there. If you're an excellent counter puncher, then bam, you're going to get them with the one shot. But if you're pressuring somebody who moves, like let's say you're pressuring a Mayweather, it's going to be very hard to catch him with just 1 and 2 or just a jab. You know, not maybe De La Hoya or Cotto, but still it was only inconsistent. So the long combos are, you got to have them both. You got to have the quick, short combos. Those are most effective. The long combos are when you deal with that defensive mobile fighter that you have a hard time opening. You need those there for that type of fighter. Any advice for a novice first fight? You know what? I could give you some good advice, but on first fight preparation, on fight preparation. And I think I even have a playlist. So there's some videos there that I give way better advice than I can give here in a few minutes. You got to go check out those videos because I at least give 10 to 15 minutes of good ideas on what you can do for your first fight. I really appreciate the question. I just think that I can answer that one a lot better in the videos that I've already made. I don't want you to miss out on anything that I have there. All right. Some of you had asked, here's a question asked a lot that I think a lot of people can benefit from is, how do I improve my boxing at home? And I can tell you that when I went from being in school and competing in boxing to working a full-time job, I didn't have as much time to train and compete. But so I had to make the most of it at home. The first thing is that if you want to box at home, it helps if you have the actual boxing experience that you can refer to. So if you're boxing at home, but you don't know what real sparring is like or what the actual experience is like, then I urge you to go get that experience. Because once you have that experience, you have at least a reference point of when you're at home, what to think about, what to do, and what matters. So get that experience first. Even if it's not a great experience, try to get that experience. Then when you're at home, the key is quick shadow boxing and visualization. Get yourself a little space or go to a tennis court or go to a park at night. Get on your favorite music and just have some fun. Boom, boom, moving around, work on your footwork, combos, pretending you're Roy Jones, pretending you're Pacquiao. I think that you make some of your best progress when you're having fun and when you're getting in the mode, getting almost like dancing, getting in a groove, getting in the mood. You don't put the pressure on yourself. So if you get 20 to 30 minutes of music and start thinking about different fighters and maybe different opponents and just go at it, have some fun for 30 minutes, moving and shadow boxing, speed, technical, just play with it and have fun. And that's going to go a long way. Also, that type of training doesn't drain you mentally. So next day you go to the gym, often you're more psyched than if you hadn't done that training at all. All right. Yeah. All right, Alan, I appreciate it. I have a fight in 9 weeks, white collar, and just don't want to be embarrassed. Yeah. Alan, you gotta, 9 weeks is a lot of time to make some really good progress. And I don't think you'll be embarrassed because there's nothing embarrassing about getting out there. But I understand what you mean is if you get knocked out or beaten really bad. But that's usually more of a mismatch than you being embarrassed. So remember that a mismatch is something that can happen. But 9 weeks is a lot of time to make a lot of progress. Check out some of my first fight preparation videos on my website. But the key is from now until that fight, you've got to get in as much sparring as you can. Get in as much sparring as you can. When you're on the bag, you've got to work speed. So try not to bludgeon, try to be, try to be electric, quick with everything you do. Right now, your focus is speed. And the next thing that's very important is start to think through what are your go-to combos? What are your go-to attacks? The things that you go to, 4 or 5 combos that you know work, that you can call upon anytime, and start practicing calling upon them in sparring so that you're not in a sparring situation and you go, oh, I threw 2 combos, the double jab right hand and the 1, 2, 3, and now I don't know what to do. You gotta know 4 or 5 different things to do. Then when you get to the fight, remember that your opponent hasn't seen you before. So you may do these same combos that inspiring people know, but that opponent hasn't seen it. The other thing that happens in a fight that you got to be ready for the first fight is that often the other fighter comes out very aggressive, very, very aggressive. And my coach called it the eye of the storm. You've got to get through this initial intensity phase where that person wants to hurt you. And that's usually, they want to finish you. And that's usually in the first minute and a half of the first round. And then sometimes the first 20 seconds of the second round. So you have to decide in your mind that you're not going to quit. And you also have to remember that once you get past that first minute through the eye of the storm, it gets easier. So you might feel overwhelmed by somebody coming at you with a real intensity in that first minute. And because it's not like sparring. In sparring, they don't do that. In sparring, come out, they don't come at you like that. So you have to be determined in your mind to go through that intensity, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. You have to tell yourself that this person's going to have to knock me out to stop me. But you got to decide in your mind that you're going to face that eye of the storm, because that's going to happen in the first fight, the first minute, quit. And so your goal is to not quit, and then you can get onto your game plan. If that happens, you got to be determined to go through that. All right. So this is the last question. This is the last question. C Tickle asks, how do you deal with a taller, more experienced and aggressive fighter who knows how to fight well? Well, the thing is that there's always going to be somebody better than you. And, for the most part. And even if you're one of the best in your weight category, there's always somebody bigger and better or somewhere. So really, the way you got to deal with that is that you got to put in more time. You got to put in more training. I don't really think there is a way to deal with that in the moment, other than to say that I am committed to this process. Because you got to remember that the transformation that's going to happen in you is going to be because no matter what's coming at you, because when you come out the other side, you will be so much happier and content with yourself that you overcame that adversity than if it had just been easy and you were only sparring easy partners. So you in a way embrace this time because it's a very rewarding time that you'll look back on, and you'll be happy that you went through that process. All right, you guys, I appreciate you being here for the live Q&A. This will be on my website if you want to refer back to it along with the other ones. And in some time, I will do another batch of these for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. We really get to discuss boxing, and you guys are the ones that have good questions. You're in it, you're committed to it, and you're curious. And this is how the energy goes back and forth, right? Your interest gives me energy to give back to you guys. So I really appreciate it. And as well, on my website, I'm going to put a Q&A page there. It'll be up in about a week. And you can post questions and answer questions and all that kind of stuff. And that'll be more of a resource. So, all right. Thank you guys for joining me here. And if you come to the live streams on Saturday for the workout, I'll see you there. But if not, I will see you in the next video. All right. Thanks for watching. Peace.